Welcome to Order Lines, Ontario Building Code Quick Tips. Today's topic is explaining mezzanine floors, presented by Steve Penna. The requirements in the Ontario Building Code, OBC, with respect to mezzanine floors can be confusing when applying it to a building design or when determining the fire and life safety requirements for persons using a mezzanine floor. Clause 1412, bracket 1, bracket C defines a mezzanine as an intermediate floor assembly between the floor and ceiling of any room or story and includes an interior balcony. What's important to remember is that a mezzanine that meets certain requirements is not considered to be a story when determining building height. This is critical when dealing with classifying a building under Section 322. Article 3211 states, this article lists the exceptions to certain building elements that would not be considered as a story when determining the height of a building. With respect to mezzanines, the next slide provides the requirements that allow a mezzanine not to be considered a story when determining building height. So a mezzanine is not considered a story if the area of the mezzanine does not exceed 40% of the open area of the room in which they are located. This is referred to as the 40% rule, which is an open floor area. And the space on the mezzanine is used as an open floor area with no partitions greater than 1070 above the mezzanine floor. This is so that persons up on the mezzanine can see if there's a problem down below. So they're visual and can also hear if there's a problem. So it's referred to as the 40% rule. Further, a mezzanine is not considered a story if the mezzanine is not more than 10% of the floor area in which it's located in. This is referred to as the 10% rule or enclosed. Or the mezzanine is not more than 40% of the floor area it is located in with an enclosed space not exceeding 10% of the mezzanine floor. That means partitions. As long as the enclosed space does not obstruct visual communication between the open space on the mezzanine and the room at which it's located. So in this case, with the 40% rule, you can have a small 10% area that's closed in on the 40%. But this diagram depicts the 10% rule. As we move on to 3282, exceptions for special protection, basically states that a mezzanine need not terminate at a vertical fire separation or be protected in conformance with the requirements in Articles 3283 to 32811, provided the mezzanine I serves an A1 major occupancy, II serves a A3 major occupancy in a building not more than 2 stories in height, or serves an A, C, D, E, or F major occupancy, and the mezzanine conforms to sentences 3211, bracket 3 or 8, which is the 40% open and not considered as a story. It goes on to say that if mezzanine, again, does not have to terminate at a vertical fire separation, if it's not considered a story in 32114, which brings us back, which is the 10% closed, and is not more than 500 meters squared in area, does not contain a B occupancy, or is not considered a story in calculating building height in sentence 3211, bracket 7 for F2 and F3 occupancies. So bottom line here is that this fire separation is not required to have the wall around this 10% mezzanine is not required to be a fire separation. In this photograph, it depicts a 10% closed-in mezzanine that's located in a repair garage. Since this is a 10% mezzanine, the vertical walls that you see in the photograph are not required to be constructed as a fire separation with a fire resistance rating. To sum it up, if a mezzanine floor is within the parameters discussed above, then it doesn't need to be considered as a story when determining building height when classifying the building under subsection 322. And it doesn't have to be protected with a vertical fire separation as required by Article 3281. There are other restrictions with respect to mezzanines, like the maximum travel distance across the mezzanine in Article 3315, and they cannot exceed 500 meters squared as indicated in Article 3282. For more information on compliance with Part 3 of the OBC, go to www.orderline.com. Thank you for watching.